In 2026, Israel quietly crossed a line that most air forces still cannot. Its stealth fighter can now reach far deeper targets, and do so with greater operational flexibility and potentially reduced reliance on aerial refueling in certain mission profiles. And it did it in a way no other F-35 operator has publicly demonstrated. Israel's F-35I, known as the F-35I Adir, is now being equipped with extended-range fuel solutions, including externally mounted fuel tanks. In a recent interview, Israel's ambassador to the United States confirmed that Israel has developed new fuel tanks and added external weapons capability to the aircraft. The implication is significant. These modifications expand operational reach and give planners more flexibility in long-range strike scenarios. And in the regional context, that matters, because it directly affects how far and how sustainably Israel can project air power toward targets in countries like Iran. But range is only part of the story. The more important distinction of the F-35I lies in how much control Israel has over the aircraft's internal systems. Unlike most F-35 operators, Israel is permitted to integrate nationally developed electronic warfare systems, weapons, data links, and software layers into the aircraft, on top of the baseline platform produced by Lockheed Martin. That gives Israel an unusual level of sovereign control over mission systems within the F-35 framework. It means threat libraries, electronic warfare parameters, and operational software layers can be adapted on a national timeline tailored to Israel's regional environment. In practical terms, the F-35I is not just another national variant. It is a customized strike platform built around Israel's own operational requirements within the broader F-35 architecture. For the Israeli Air Force, that level of autonomy is a strategic advantage, and taken together, these upgrades are reshaping how Israel plans long-range operations. This is not simply an incremental improvement to a stealth fighter. It is an evolution in how Israel can prepare for extended-range contingencies. To understand why extended range matters, you have to look at geography. The distance from Israel to key targets in Iran can exceed 1,000 miles, depending on routing and airspace considerations. The standard F-35A has a combat radius of roughly 670 nautical miles on internal fuel when configured for stealth strike. That radius is not the same as ferry range, and it does not account for combat maneuvering, evasive routing, or weapons load variations. For decades, long-range strike doctrine relied heavily on aerial refueling. Tankers extend range, they increase loiter time, they allow flexible mission planning. But tankers are also large, radar-visible aircraft. They require protection. They operate from predictable orbits, and in high-threat environments, they become strategic assets that must be defended. Reducing dependence on tankers increases operational flexibility by expanding routing options and lowering the number of vulnerable support aircraft in a strike package. Israel's reported extended-range fuel solutions don't eliminate aerial refueling, but they may make tankers less central in some missions. In strategic planning, flexibility strengthens deterrence. Range helps an aircraft go farther, but software helps it survive. The F-35 is often called a flying computer because it gathers huge amounts of battlefield data, processes it, and shares it with other forces. Its strength isn't just stealth, it's how smart it is. Most countries that operate the F-35 depend on US-managed updates for its mission data. Israel, however, negotiated special flexibility. The Israeli Air Force can add its own electronic warfare systems and update parts of its threat libraries to match regional dangers. Israel doesn't control the jet's core flight software. That remains American. But it can adjust the electronic warfare layer to respond to nearby threats. In a region where air defense systems change quickly, that matters. Instead of waiting for outside updates, Israel can respond based on its own intelligence. That faster reaction time can make a real difference, because in air combat, speed is critical. Just as software advantages depend on the situation, stealth does too. The F-35 is designed to carry weapons inside its body to stay harder to detect on radar, but it can also mount weapons on its wings. This heavier setup is often called beast mode. In beast mode, the jet gives up some of its stealth in exchange for carrying a much larger payload. This isn't unique to Israel. It's a standard feature of the F-35. Military planning usually follows phases. First, stealth-configured aircraft enter defended airspace and weaken enemy air defenses. Once those defenses are damaged, the need for maximum stealth decreases. At that point, carrying more weapons becomes more important than staying nearly invisible. That's where external weapons come in. The F-35 isn't just a stealth aircraft built for one type of mission. It's a flexible strike platform that can adapt as battlefield conditions change. This same idea of flexibility shows up in Israel's aircraft purchases. In 2025, Israel finalized plans to buy the F-15IA, its customized version of the F-15EX. The F-15IA is built for heavy strike missions and can carry far more weapons than an F-35 can carry internally. The goal isn't to replace older jets with one super aircraft. It's about using different aircraft for different roles. The F-35 focuses on stealth penetration, advanced sensors, and real-time data sharing, while the F-15IA focuses on carrying large weapon loads, launching long-range standoff munitions. Together, they create a layered strike system, stealth aircraft that scout and gather information, paired with heavily armed jets that deliver powerful follow-up strikes. It's not about exaggerating capability. It's about combining strengths to increase flexibility. As of January 2026, Israel has 48 F-35I jets in service. The last two aircraft from its original 50-plane order are expected to arrive by the end of 2026. In 2024, Israel approved the purchase of a third squadron, 25 more aircraft. Over time, that would bring the total planned fleet to 75, with those additional jets arriving later in the decade. 75 advanced fifth-generation fighters in a relatively small region would represent a significant boost in capability. But right now, the operational fleet stands at 48 aircraft. The total number of jets is important, but how well they are integrated into overall military strategy matters even more. The United States also regularly deploys advanced aircraft to the region. These deployments add extra strength, but they don't replace Israel's own air power. Israel is one of the few countries that has publicly acknowledged using the F-35 in real-world combat operations. The exact mission details are classified. Still, there's an important difference between training exercises and actual combat. Real-world operations test systems under pressure. Pilots and planners learn what works, what doesn't, and how to adjust. Combat experience shapes strategy in ways simulations simply can't, and lessons learned lead to adaptation. So, is Israel's F-35 truly more advanced? Not in its engine, not in its stealth shape, not in its core design. The difference is about control and flexibility. Israel has more freedom to integrate its own systems, especially in electronic warfare. It can update certain threat data and make adjustments on its own timeline, instead of relying entirely on outside update cycles. The Adir is still part of the global F-35 family. It isn't a completely different aircraft, but within that shared framework, Israel negotiated more room to customize parts of the system. In modern air power, control over software and system integration can matter just as much as physical hardware. By 2026, that mix, longer reach, and greater control over key systems, is influencing how Israel prepares for long-range missions. Not through a dramatic redesign, but through negotiated flexibility and steady refinement. I'm curious what you think. Does this change how you see Israel's air power? Or not really? Share your thoughts below. I'm looking forward to reading them. Thanks for watching.